Very grateful to you for keeping us alive this day and really directing the
For Sybil and Alvin Guthrie, these were supposed to be the golden years.
I was looking forward to a time that we could have retired together, do much more together.
After moving to the U.S. from their native Jamaica 22 years ago, the Guthries had found the American dream. Good jobs, she was a nurse and he was a civil servant, and a great family. Now it was time for the fun stuff.
To do what we were not able to do when we were raising our 4 children. Take vacation by ourselves and to have our grandkids.
But almost a decade ago, Sybil noticed a tremor in her right arm.
I noticed when I raised my right arm to put my makeup on, it's just, my arm got real weak and it started just trembling.
And since you're a nurse, you must have known right away that something was wrong.
Yeah, well, I suspected one of 2 things. Either it was a brain tumor or it might have been Parkinson's.
A doctor confirmed her fears. 52-year-old Sybil Guthrie had Parkinson's disease. At first, her daughter Aldine thought nothing could slow down her high-speed mom.
She loved to dance, very high energy, very positive, and was always doing stuff, you know, for other people, but especially for her family. And she was just always up and happy.
And for a while, Sybil kept up her whirlwind pace with the help of medication. But as the disease got worse, the drugs did less.
For quite a few years, she was able to function very, very well. And then it kind of got scary then, because even with the medicines, then you could still see that this disease was really progressing. Can you do it? You want to try? It's been really hard to see somebody who was going constantly just almost come to a standstill, you know, because her body wouldn't let her.
By the time we met Sybil this past spring, even a simple task like eating breakfast was a frustrating battle with her own body.
And I get very emotional. Sometimes I cry. It's just a hard thing to do.
The disease had gotten so bad that sometimes her muscles froze completely, making her face almost expressionless, and her legs almost useless. The woman who once was always on the go could barely move, confined to a wheelchair.
Do you ever wake up in the morning and forget that you have Parkinson's for a moment or two?
Not now. Not recently. Because my every waking hour is terrifying. Because either I'm shaking, or I can't move, or I'm in pain.
And as Sybil's strength faded, so did the Guthries' golden dreams of retirement. Instead of planning for vacations, Alvin had been spending much of his time arranging care for Sybil, who needed help with everything, from grooming to turning over in bed.
I'm not able to turn over in bed, and that's something that really bothers me a lot. Every time I have to turn over in bed, my husband has to turn me over.
Parkinson's disease had taken a lot from Sybil. The ability to play with her grandchildren, to walk, even a good night's sleep. But she said her greatest loss was her pride.
One of the things that this disease has really accomplished is it has really robbed me of my dignity, my self-esteem, because it has taken away my independence. When you have to be totally dependent on other people to do everything for you, you actually lose your self-respect. You feel worthless. And that's what Parkinson's has done for me.
There is no cure for Parkinson's disease, and often it only gets worse with time. But Sybil never gave up hope that someday doctors would find a way to restore her functioning and her life. She put her name on a list at Emory Medical Center near her home in Atlanta for a radical brain surgery. There was no guarantee it would work, and it was irreversible. But Sybil was determined to try every option.
I read a story of someone who had a pallidotomy. My doctor told me, he says, well, you seem to be a good candidate.
But when she finally heard from her doctor more than a year later, he had some surprising news about a new treatment being tested at Emory called deep brain stimulation. It looked promising, but it still involved a risky brain surgery.
It's scary. I've read the information, reading over all the material, everything that's involved with the surgery has really helped me appreciate that this is really major.
Here's how it works. Dopamine is a key chemical messenger that keeps certain parts of the brain under control. With Parkinson's disease, decayed brain cells fail to produce dopamine. As a result, those brain areas fire wildly, making muscles throughout the body either shaky or rigid. With deep brain stimulation, a tiny electrode inserted into the brain emits an electrical current that brings those brain areas back under control so muscles return to normal. The electrode is powered by a pacemaker-like device in the patient's chest.
You take a dose usually around 4 or 5 o'clock or so?
Dr. Gerald Vitek is the director of the program for functional neurology at Emory University.
Tell me the best possible case for Mrs. Guthrie and the worst possible case.
The best off, the stiffness, the tremor, the cramping, and the pain, that they go away. The worst possible case is that, first of all, we do harm to Mrs. Guthrie. By that I mean she suffers a bleed in her brain, or she has some other complicating factor that makes her worse off than she is now.
And despite those serious risks of losing her powers of speech or movement completely, Sybil had no hesitation. She wanted to try the surgery.
Do you have any fears about those surgeons tinkering around inside your brain?
Yes, I do. I think about it. But I might as well take the chance. Because it can't get any worse. It can only get better. That's my thought.
And if that's what Sybil wanted, well, that's what her family wanted too.
I'm scared to death for her and that she has to go through it. I also realize that she really doesn't have an alternative, you know, if she's going to live some sort of a quality life. So this really is her only choice, and she's looking at it like that.
It was just one day before the surgery when the Guthrie family gathered at Emory Hospital.
Just want to tell you what your day is going to be like so that you'll know what to expect tomorrow.
Dr. Vitek explained the procedure. Incredibly, Sybil would be awake for the entire operation.
Are you scared?
No, I'm not. I thought that the closer the surgery got, I'd be more nervous. But it's the reverse. The closer the surgery gets, it's the calmer I become.
Tell me about your fantasy about a few days from now when you start to feel the effects of the surgery.
Oh, I'll be walking out of the hospital, going home.
Sybil would only be the fourth patient at Emory to undergo this operation. Last year, the FDA approved deep brain stimulation to treat tremors, but Sybil would be part of a clinical trial to determine whether stimulation of a different part of the brain could treat all the symptoms of Parkinson's disease. Since fewer than 30 patients in the U.S. have undergone this surgery for Parkinson's, even her doctor admitted he could not predict the results.
Mrs. Guthrie wants to walk again. She wants to be able to turn over in bed and hold her grandchildren. What reasonable hope can you give her that she can do any of these things?
Well, we don't know for sure that we can do any of those things. We believe that she should gain relatively good benefit. The one thing I'm not convinced about is the walking.
Are you feeling a bit sleepy now?
Great. A little different.
But on the morning of the surgery, Sybil was confident, even as nurses fitted her with a head frame to help guide surgeons during the operation. And as they wheeled her to the x-ray, she was in good spirits.